Hi, this is Sharos Walji again from Astral Connections, and here with me I have Colette Stefan. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes.
She's a Yuen method practitioner, instructor, and she's certified. Maybe you can get that mouthful better than me.
I've had more practice saying it.
So let's talk to Colette a little bit. She was just here today and she did a demo at Astral Connections, and wow, what an experience that was. It was amazing what I witnessed on the stage there. And those two ladies and the changes you must have made in their lives today.
Well, they made the changes themselves, and that's the important thing for us to realize. I facilitated the change for them. They let go of some major energetic weaknesses, and because it's a mother and a daughter, it was really powerful because they were here together, and they were both open to changing their lives for the better.
Okay. So before we talk a little bit more about the Yuen method, let's talk about you, Colette. Let's talk about you. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Regina, Saskatchewan.
Wow.
The city that rhymes with fun.
That was the first place we came to when I came to Canada. So.
To Regina, Saskatchewan?
To Saskatchewan.
Oh, okay. And whereabouts was that?
In Saskatoon, in Saskatchewan.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. The beauty about Saskatchewan is that it's wide open, and when I was growing up, you understand the different seasons very well, because we have a very distinct winter and a very distinct spring.
I know. Well, I was coming from Africa to snow Saskatchewan, so when we got off the plane, my uncles and aunts handed us like Eskimo suits made of that. Like, what?
Yes, it can get cold there.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit then, what happened after that? You grew up there, how was it there, and where did you go from there?
I grew up in Saskatchewan, and then when I was in my 20s, I traveled around the world for about 10 years.
Lucky you.
Yeah, I lived in Australia for a year and a half. I lived in Vancouver. Yes, right on the beach. I went for 4 months to Australia, and I ended up staying for a year and a half. And I went to Bali, Indonesia to renew my visa. And then I traveled to Europe and the Dominican Republic. I love traveling. So I would work for a little while and make enough money, and then I'd go travel some more. And then I met the father of my children and became married, settled down. I have two beautiful daughters. Mackenzie's my oldest, and Madison. Beautiful. And they're both, absolutely wonderful. I'm blessed to have them in my life.
What was your career path?
I worked with animals a lot. I worked with dogs, and before I started really developed crystalline vision and started doing the energetic work, I for many years groomed dogs, ran a daycare, and actually when my business was called Bad to the Bone Dog Boutique. And it was the very first high-end boutique in Saskatchewan. Mm-hmm. But what happened is I realized I always had wanted to have that experience of having a boutique, but at the same time I had started taking these Yuen method classes. And I went to certification in November of 2008 into California, and I sold my business while I was in California at certification without advertising it.
So then what led you to the Yuen method? So there must have been something that...
What led me to it was the experience that I had with my niece, who had been involved in a serious car accident. She was 18 at the time. Her best friend was killed in the accident, and she was gone at the scene. And they revived her, and they did a lot of surgery on her, and then they told us that she was going to be brain damaged and that it was very serious. And my sister contacted a long-distance healer from BC, and he worked on her, and as he worked on her from a distance, he was in BC and she was in Saskatchewan, she just started recovering more and more, and with every time he worked on her, she came out of the coma, and then she started to remember us, and then she remembered how to read, and then she remembered what she bought at the West Edmonton Mall. so
that was important.
Yeah, that's when we knew she was going to be okay. And she that was 9 years ago. And she's beautiful, married now, just had a baby. Her name's Estée Elise. She was just born a month ago. Yeah, and she's just a blessing. It's just, and she went to university 5 months after the accident, and has totally same personality. She's always a bright, beautiful smile, and that impressed me so much that I wanted to know more about it.
The healing.
About how did he do that, and so I kind of looked into it, and what happened is I was actually given this little Tibetan Terrier puppy because I had put my dog down, and out of the blue this woman gave me this dog, and it's kind of a long story that I won't get into, but when I was given this dog after I had her in my home, the lady that had given her to me, who I had never met before this, she would phone me when I was really feeling down. Inevitably I'd get a phone call from her, and I'd talk to her for like 10-15 minutes, and I'd feel better. And I finally said to her, "What is it that you're doing?" And she told me about the Yuen method, and a woman by the name of Tai Neo was coming in from Colorado to teach it in my city.
And she had the demo, probably.
Yeah, and she had the demo and the intro, and I went to it. And after taking the introductory class, which is a 3-hour class, I left that class saying I was born to do this, and now I'm doing it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the healer that your sister got in touch with, was your sister involved in healing at all at the time?
A little bit, but it was more that she was doing different aspects of it. She was working with different people. The healer was actually Adam Dream Healer.
Okay,
yes,
yeah.
And he was young at that time. He was only like 16 years old.
Yeah, I met him when he wasn't Adam the Dream Healer.
Yeah, when he was still
such a lovely guy.
Yeah, he is, and he, I totally credit, what the work that he did, and I was just amazed by it, and I had to know how that happened. And when I received this dog, and I took, and I started noticing for myself and experiencing those shifts, when you experience that, and after seeing my niece recover the way she did, there's no doubt left in your mind that it works because you saw it with your own eyes. And since then, I've seen so many miracles. So
yeah, I see a lot of miracles go through here because we have healers here as well.
Yeah.
It's just amazing to think that we have it in us to heal ourselves, or that your next door neighbor could help you heal.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because what Dr. Yeun talks about, this is information. And what I'm really doing is sharing the information with people, because everybody has the ability to do this. Any healing comes from within ourselves. So I'm just reminding people that they have this ability. And so there's some very dramatic results from this, because people tune into it, and the energetic corrections that are coming in. It's like flipping a light switch, something that was blocking your energy, just with the focus of your mind for less than a second, just focusing on the person's midline and identifying what the weakness is and focusing on the midline to flip that switch. It's amazing what can happen from that.
Lots of modalities have come through here. How do we separate Yuen method from the others? Can you?
Yeah, I would say that I have, because this was the first modality that I came across, since then I've worked with hundreds of people teaching them this modality, and I actually have identified that the people that tend to come to my classes are people that have taken quite a few modalities. Right. And what they, almost all of them have told me, actually pretty much every one of them has told me, is that it's like jigsaw pieces, puzzle pieces falling into place. And that what happens is absolutely everything that they've studied, everything that they've known, all the successes that they've had, it just zoop, and they start having like dramatic results with their clients.
Wow.
And that is my greatest pleasure, is when I teach this to someone or remind them of the information. What happens when they email me and they tell me, "Oh, you can't believe the results that I'm getting." Really profound results. And it's Dr. Yeun's mission to have a Yuen method practitioner in every family. And I totally agree with him. That would be a great thing.
So now, did you actually meet Dr. Yeun?
Oh, absolutely.
You have to tell me about that.
Yes, I absolutely did. I had probably taken 2 or 3 classes by that point. And he actually came to Regina, Saskatchewan, which is a miracle in itself. And I had a private session with him. He was only there for the demo that evening, and he had a few openings. And back then I had a half-hour session with him. I shared it with my former husband and a friend because I wanted them to get to experience it too. And it was really funny because at that time in my life I had severe sciatica and my left leg would collapse on me a lot, and I was really concerned about it. And ever since I saw him for that short period of time, that half hour, I've never had that since. Wow. It was gone like that. And I was so impressed with him. He was in Saskatoon then the next night doing a demo, and was having a level 1 class there. I followed him there, and I've been following him ever since for 7 years now. I actually did intern for Dr. Yuen several times, and I was just out in Spain last year.
What exactly is interning? Because I noticed tonight we had somebody intern with you. So can you explain that?
The internship is after you have taken the level 1, the level 2, and the level 3 class, and then you repeat them, that you have an opportunity, if you want to carry on and go to certification, that you can intern. And then what happens is it just allows people to have an opportunity to get up and speak a little bit, and to the best way to understand something better is to teach it to someone else. So I have a lot of interns that just come over and over and over again, and that's what I did. I probably have attended, I don't know, 30, 40 Yuen method classes. Whenever Dr. Yuen's around, I make sure that I do.
You're there.
Yeah, I'm there. He's not doing as many live events right now. I followed him out to Spain in the spring of last year because he hadn't had no events in North America, and I got to meet people from all over the world. It was amazing. It was an amazing thing to see because we had Dr. Yuen's has quite a thick Chinese accent. Then we had a Spanish interpreter. And then we had Germans and Greeks and people from all over the world. And so it was so amazing and interesting to watch all these people. And the beautiful thing was that everybody gets it, and is able to communicate like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, being in the audience today was quite amazing, actually. I've been involved with many modalities, but this was quite different. It really was.
It's very fast. It uses the principles of quantum physics, and it uses our ability to get in touch with, on our midline, our spine. That's like the hard drive of our computer, and it allows us very quickly to identify if we're weak or strong to something. And once you have that skill, it's huge because you can use that skill then to correct it.
And is that muscle testing in every sense?
When we are teaching the Yuen method, in the morning I teach people how to muscle test, and usually by the second day they're not using too much muscle testing anymore, because the goal is just to be able to do it. It's a hands-off method. You don't need to touch the person. You don't need to use kinesiology. Right. But for some people who have not had that experience a lot, it helps them to feel the weak and strong in themselves and then move forward with it. It happens very quickly.
Okay.
Yeah, my greatest joy really is the students that I teach, and then they're emailing me and phoning me and saying, "You can't believe it!" And I'm like, "Yes, I can," because I've seen so many miracles happen. Yeah. And my very first demo that I ever did, I was actually going to assist another practitioner, and she didn't make the flight, and I was in Kamloops, BC, and I had never spoken in public. I didn't have any material on me, and I got to the airport. I hopped on the plane even though she didn't. I thought, well, one of us better go, and I didn't even know where I was going when I got there. And there was a lady standing there with a sign with my name on it. That picked me up at the airport. And I did the demo that night, and it was the first time I'd ever spoken in public. There was about 40 people there. And there was a lady that had been in a car accident, and she had to sit in a chair to be worked on, actually. And 13 years previous, she had been in this car accident. And what happened is I worked on her in 3 corrections. I said to her, "Okay, now how's the pain now?" And she said, "It's gone." And I said, "It's gone?"
That's hilarious.
I was like, "Oh my God." But that's how this method is, because it's so surprising how much people can let go of like that quickly.
So have you had somebody who's like actually walked out of a wheelchair and started walking?
We did have a demonstration in Penticton, and this was very interesting. I actually had a good friend of mine, his name is Phil Deliage, and he came and interned. It was my very first class that I was ever teaching. So he said he's really, really brilliant at this. So he flew out from Arizona and came and interned at the class for me, which was awesome. And at the demo, when we were on the plane flying into Penticton, there was a young man that got on with crutches, and he sat in front of me, and I had a doctor sitting next to me on the plane. And what happened is the doctor asked me, what do I do? And he said that he was actually just at a pain weekend class or about how to lower pain and the medications and all of that. Right. And he asked me what I do, and I said, well, actually I eliminate pain. And the young man in front of us asked, well, can you help me? He turned around, can you help me? And the doctor said, well, talk to her. She eliminates pain. I just reduce it. And he said, no offense, ma'am, but I would prefer to talk to the doctor. And I said, hey, no offense taken. That's all cool. But then when we were waiting for the luggage, as he's hobbling out on his crutches, I said to him, you know, it's free. You could come to the demo. We might be able to help you. And what happened is he showed up, and there was probably about 60 people there, and he showed up on his crutches, and I pulled him right up to the front right away because I knew if I didn't that he wouldn't come up. Right. And he sat down, and I just said, okay,
that's confidence.
Yeah, I said, okay, Phil, you work on him. Right. And so Phil, and I just explained what was happening as Phil was working on him. And in 5 minutes, he was standing on his foot for the first time in like 3 to 5 years. I think it was 3.5 years is actually what it was, that he had been in this accident. And he was standing on it, and then he started realizing that he was letting this go, and all these emotions started coming over him. And he was really frightened, actually. So I had Phil take him in the back and just work on him in private because he didn't want to show all this emotion. But he came out holding his crutches. And he's walking, and he was literally walking with his crutches and going, I don't know what happened, but he told me that I think I'm going to dance tonight. Wow. So yeah, that must
have been so edifying for you.
Everybody was laughing, and the best part is that Phil had, he has long hair and a beard, and he looks a lot. At that time he looked like Jesus. So it was.
Who knows what Jesus looked like?
No, you know what I mean, like all the pictures, and we laughed and laughed. I said, wow. It was, and everybody in the audience. There was actually a psychiatrist in the audience, and she said she had never witnessed anything like that in her life, and she took the class the next day. Wow. Yeah, so those are, I'm really happy because I'm starting to get doctors and psychiatrists and psychologists and counselors and nurses are starting to attend these classes, and that means a lot to me because I know that then people, when they're in the hospital, that they're going to get care on all levels instead of just on the physical level. And there's many wonderful people in the hospitals and in the medical system that have a very strong desire. This. Yeah, and if they embrace this also, it can move a lot. Yeah, yes. It's really, really important that people realize that human beings are multifaceted and that what appears to be a physical illness rarely is root source physical. A lot of times it'll show up on the mental level and the emotional level and the psychological or on the spiritual or the psychic level. And the beauty of this method is you actually identify exactly where it is, and as soon as you identify it, it's cleared.
So will we be able to get you back at Astral?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Wonderful. I would love to do that.
Okay.
Yes.
Maybe we could do some of your courses here, or maybe you can do some sessions here.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love that. Thank you so much.
So
I welcome the opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, Colette.
Thank you.
Thank you.